Assalamualaikum. Now, with wedding seasons coming very fast, I'm going to be sharing some wedding outfits with you and some wedding outfits advice with you also. So, first thing, recently I made a trip to Pakistan, and when you're in Pakistan, you sort of get carried away and you end up buying lots of stuff, which you sometimes make hasty decisions and it doesn't always come out as you expect it, especially when you leave it in the hands of people who are going to do embroidery for you and people who are going to do tailoring and so on. Unless you've got plenty of time and you're going to try everything out and make sure you can run around and you've got the time to actually invest in your project. Otherwise, you're, I don't know, better off leaving it in the hands of some professionals. Anyway, I was there and I bought a suit for my daughter. This one was, I paid 19,500 rupees, which is equivalent to about £150, a little bit over, maybe £150, depending on the rate, exchange rate, and so on. Now, although I do tailoring myself, I always struggle for time. So I know these kind of clothes can be difficult to sew, having sewn them myself. So I thought, well, I'll entrust it in the hands of professionals and get it done professionally, which I gave to tailors. And on the look at the time, they looked okay, but when I got them home, they were not as I wanted, and there were lots of amendments and adjustments that I had to do to this. One, Lima is very tall, so it had a trim attached at the bottom which was in velvet, and the blue velvet actually didn't go and it looked quite tatty. So what I did was I took the velvet off and I've replaced it because she wanted it longer than what it was as well. So I bought a couple of Banarsi extensions. I unpicked the whole of the bottom layer and then redid the bottom to make it lengthy and to even it out and so on. So there was additional work in that. Now the top portion of this is beautiful embroidery, neckline done on it. Is a little bit of work on the back, and she had fitting problems where it was too wide, the sleeves were too wide, and the neckline was too deep, and it was dropping off her shoulders. And so what I had to do was take off the sleeves and reattach the sleeves. I had to fit out the sleeves, and I also had to fit out the panels. Now there was another problem which I was actually quite disappointed, because when I gave them this, I expected these to be overlocked, and this is one of the problems. When these dresses are made, the panels need to be sewn prior, and the panels need to be overlocked and so on prior to the garment being assembled. And when the garment is assembled and it's got all these beads on, I tried overlocking it on one of my own machines, but it just wasn't working, because every time one of these beads came along, you either have to take it off, and if you take it off of such a fine material, then you're going to leave a physical mark and sometimes even a hole in the fabric. I did take some off, and I actually tightened the panels. I tightened all of the panels from the waist so that it gave her a good fitting, which alhamdulillah you will see. I will get her to wear it on the wedding day and give you a demonstration of it. The fitting is mashallah really good. So this was my outfit number one. Beautiful color combinations. You can tell generally she wouldn't wear this pink. Now I'm going to tell you a story about a pink outfit that one of my friends and the disappointments with wedding outfits. I have a very close friend who's actually bought some wedding outfits, and she had travelled to Birmingham and ordered them from there. They'd paid something ridiculous like £350 or £380 a suit, and there was I think 3 suits for 3 sisters. And basically what's happened with them is they wanted a dusky pink, probably something similar to this, and instead they've come back with being baby pink. Now I'll show you the comparison of a baby pink versus dusky pink. Now some people will carry baby pink off but others will not carry baby pink off, as they will, I mean, that's a lot lighter, and when that has a heavy work done on it, as for a child this would be a wonderful color, but for an adult with heavy work, and depending on the type of work as well, it actually will give it a cheap and tatty look. So they were very disappointed. She was in tears and she was crying, and she was, you know, complaining that I'd spent a fortune. She spent a day all the way traveling to Birmingham, and then only to find out now these garments were made in India and they'd come from India, and then to find out last minute that this is what's turned out to be, you can't do. And especially if it's last minute, pre-prepare well in advance. And also, if you're going to order a color, make sure to give a swatch of the color that you want. Give one to them and keep one yourself, so that when the garment comes back, you match it to match it, and you make sure that it's the right shade, and get a guarantee from the shopkeeper that if the color isn't absolutely perfect, I'm sorry, but if it's not to my liking, I'm not going to take it. And you know, when I had the shop, I had instances like that, when people ordered something and they wanted it specific, then that's what they got. Otherwise, you know what, you have to give them the money back. And you know, it's if the color is done and passed by you prior to the embroidery, then that's well and good. But if you're going to get, if you've ordered this color and you come back with this color, then sure enough you're going to get a disappointment. So anyway, this is my outfit number one. The video is going to be a little bit lengthy. That's the churidar with it. Even though this is a full length, floor length dress, I still had the churidar made with it. And then the dupatta, this has still got the velvet on from what it was. Now it actually looks good on the camera, but if you look at it close up, it's not as, you know, with this kind of putty going on, you want a little bit of, you know, I would have wanted a little bit of this embroidery going on this. Otherwise it's just not worth. I'm going to have this taken off now, because the Banarsi is already attached, and I think that's sufficient. It doesn't need the velvet now. Actually, that was to coordinate it with the look of the trim initially. Anyway, that's my outfit number one. Now I'm going to show you a couple of others, quite a few others. I've still got a mother and daughters to sort out, which is Inaya's and her mum's, but you have to be really careful with these that you don't actually. Now the next two are a couple of my bargain suits. This one I bought as a fabric, and I've stitched this myself. It was, I paid something like, I don't know, 4,000 rupees for this, but I've spent a little bit of additional money on some add-ons with this. Okay, now this was, like I mentioned, this was bought from Pakistan. A few of the diamonds came off. I've re-ironed them back on. So basically what I've done is, this one is more of a straight kameez and not anarkali or anything. It's I've sewn this. I'm going to give you a little bit of a proper look of this. Now I've sewn this without attaching any lining, and I'll give you the reasons why as well. One, a pure chiffon like this gets a very, very good drop when you don't line it. Two, these clothes are worn like momentarily, and if you're in, say, like a party or something, and if you're wearing something like this, the sooner you get out of a party, you know what, you want to strip out of this. I would advise, if you're like making a long travel to, say, a distance place, and on the way back, you know what, just go to the bathroom and take the top thing off, because there's nothing, they're quite heavy and they are quite hard to wear for long term. Anyway, the way I've sewn this is plain and simple. I've piped it. I've done a coordination of silver piping. I added additional lace to the back, and the reason for that, and I've added some double silk at the back of the dress, just to give the back some weight, because it's quite heavy at the front, and when dresses like this are worn, they tend to fall towards the front. There's the neckline that's got the work, and then there's the daman that's got the work. So when you lift this, the natural fall is more towards the front. So just to give it a bit of weight, what I've done is I put a double layer of silk, and then I did the lace at the bottom. Now I've done hand tarpai all the way through all the jacks, and this is what gives it neatness. And this, you know, I've matched it off. Obviously I've done it with the churidar and the undergarment with this separately, so they can be worn separately too. This is the other problem. They're on very fine fabrics, and they tend to slip quite easily. Anyway, for the price and for the look of it, this is absolutely beautiful. But then this is all down to the way this has been stitched. If it's stitched professionally, it will look professional, and it will look pretty, and it will look like a boutique suit. Whereas if this was sewn badly, then you know what, this would look cheap. And you know, if you put this kind of a garment in and compare it with the same garment made not so well, then you know what, it will look cheap. But nobody would believe that this is the price that I'd paid for it, considering. But if you put all the effort into it, then you know what, then the price shoots up. Because if I was sewing something like this, you'd be looking at £40–50 just for the sewing alone. So with that is a separate chemise. This is also like more of like professionally made. I've not done like a cheap type of a job on this, because I sort of put effort into even making the chemise part of it. The beauty of this is that, you know what, if you got fed up, or if you wanted another top making on top of this, you could use the lining equally well, and you can make another top on top of it. Or you can, if you wanted another design to go with that, a salwar rather than this, then you can do that, because this is a churidar. So that's like combinations. You can play around quite a bit. And then the dupatta was just these diamonds, and what I did was I bought this beady lace, this bauble type of a lace, and I've put that on just to finish it off. So this is my outfit number 2. So now I'm going to show you what mine is. Well, actually, we're going to come back. Do join me again, because I've got 2 more outfits to do, and it's going to be a bit lengthy. So we'll come back, and I'll show you the other 2.